And also from the same class, we have Dave Bernhardt. Now we'll skip to the class of 2003, 2004. That's our very own Executive Director, Mark Martin. And also Crystal Trombley from the same class. Jean Gebbia from the class of 2004, 2005. And we have Janet Dimmer from the class of 2005, 2006. And George Zane is here from 2007, 2008. As is Clinton Green. Jeff Ostrom is here from 2008, 2009. We have three members from that class. We have Libby Fletcher here as well. And Kenneth Wyatt. And we have two members of the class of 2009, 2010. That's Edwin Ostrang. And Betty Timper.
Yeah, Betty!
From the class of 2010-11, Paul Stewart's here. We have two representatives of the class of 2011-2012, Hall of Famer Roy Biggs. And Joe Pajensky. From the class of 2012-2013, we have four members here. We have Rick Capaldi, Dave Ewald, Mark White, and Randy Shank. And then finally, we have the class of 2000, well, we have two, 2013-2014, Eddie Grace III. And one of last year's inductees, Jay Lang. All right, so at this point, we have a number of distinguished guests here as well. We'll announce their names and recognize them later, but right now we're going to get started with dinner, and then we will resume the program at that point. So enjoy the dinner, everybody. for this evening, not just from our Hall of Famers, but also from the greater bowling community. So visiting us tonight are Kenneth DeBoer, President of the Michigan State Bowling Association. Mary DeBoer, President of the Michigan State Women's Bowling Association. Sharon Childreth, Association Manager of the Michigan State Women's Bowling Association. Roger Childreth, President, State Senior and State Youth Association. David Schmansky, Deputy Wayne County Treasurer. I still want to say Your Honor. We'll be hearing from him later. Ken Popek, Executive Director of the Bowling Centers Association of Michigan. And from the Southeast Michigan Bowling Centers Association, we have Tom Winkle, President. And Vicki Ingham, Vice President. And John Kasbar, Executive Director. And from Mercury and Cherry Hill North Lanes, Greg Gumtow. From Luxury Lanes, Paul Stewart. From Beach and Mayflower Lanes, Henry Mistely. And I'd also like to recognize our MDUSBC board, John Vorpagel, President. And I'd like the board members to stand when we do recognize you, thanks. George Brzezinski, Vice President. And board members Ann Block, Mike DeGrusi, Libby Fletcher, Mark Kirkman, and our Association Manager Mark Martin, Ashley Quibby, and Anita Myrana. All right, and also let's really give a nice round of applause for our association staff who worked so hard to put this night together. Debbie Malisco, and Kid, and Kathy Hucker. And one last group that I'd like to recognize, and this is particularly of importance to our inductees here on the dais here, and that is our Metro Detroit USBC Hall of Fame Committee. So representing the Southeast Michigan Bowling Centers Association is John Kasbar, Greg Gumtow, Paul Stewart, Mark Boyd, and representing the media is our friend Larry Palladino. At-large members of the Hall of Fame Committee are Roy Biggs, Leah Cameline, Ken Charette, Margaret Lewis, and Alita Sill. And representing the Metro Detroit USBC, Ed Ostrang, Ed Carusi, Libby Fletcher, Terry Grant, Anita Myrana, Mark Martin, Tom McKay, and John Vorpagel. Thank you all for, and every year it is such a tough job. There are so many worthy candidates to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, and thanks to the Hall of Fame Committee for all of your hard work, and it is a lot of hard work. So we are going to begin things now, and this is the beginning of the class of 2015, and Janice Pavlov is going to be honored tonight, and she's going to be introduced by Cora Fiebig.
Last name is Cabela. That's all right. That's all right. We're just learning. I'd like to also congratulate all of the honorees here tonight. As you've read in your program, Jan has joined the All-Star Laureates in 1970. Gee, that's a long time. Jan didn't just win one women's bowling association title, she won 3. 1974 Pine Tree Bowl, 1977 Motown Records, and 1983 Bonanza Restaurants. And I heard something about Jan that when she used to bowl, that she would go down on the lanes and she would have a song in her head when she was bowling. I'm wondering if that had any influence on the Motown record. Yeah, just teasing. A lot of us would be happy with just winning one. And there was also a DWBA doubles title in 1992. Also selected to the All-City team in 1979 and 82. The All-Stars bowled 2 nights a week. Monday in the same house every week. Wednesday we traveled all over the area, in the suburbs and around the city, and it was quite enjoyable. We got to know a lot of people, and having a person like Jan on a lot of these teams was to our credit. She was very nice, very hospitable, and she had a winning smile that everybody remarked about. She was quite delightful to be around. But for Jan, that wasn't enough. So from 72 to 76, she also attended college in Adrian, where she received a BA in education, besides working for Domino Pizza. And she was not a flipping pizza girl. She sold equipment to other stores. And the same years later, and that was while she was bowling 2 nights a week, working and going to college. That's a lot on somebody's plate. Some years later, 1993, she moved to Phoenix, Arizona. She continued to work for Domino's as a buyer for food products that delivered to all stores in the Arizona, Southern, New Mexico, and parts of California. She owned her own business, and it was selling rugs. She went to Turkey 4 times, purchased those rugs, and brought them back. That was from 98 to 2000. From 2000 to the present, she started teaching in Phoenix. 2009, she received a master's degree, and that was for special education, which she is still involved in. It is called the Early Childhood Special Education, and it was from Arizona State. She teaches children aged 3 to 5 with special needs, and that's autism. Jan has always been a giver, never a fighter. So I would like to present to you one of the new members in the Hall of Fame, Janice Pavella.
Thank you very much. It's not only wonderful to see Cora again after all these years. I haven't been back for quite some time. I left in '93, and I've been back once in 2006 when my parents passed away, but I didn't get to see anybody. So Cora, it's not only lovely to see you again, but to have the honor of Cora introducing me to this wonderful mother. Thank you.
And it's my pleasure.
I just wanted to say that Cora not only sets an example for people on and off the lanes, but it's one that we can always all hope to follow at some point in our lives. Thank you, Cora. Thank you. I spoke to Mark Martin a few times when I received the notice that I was going to be inducted. And I asked Mark, who nominated me for this honor? And I don't know if Mark didn't know or didn't want to tell me, but to whoever that is, thank you. Thank you, thank you. And I'd also like to thank the Hall of Fame committee, especially Libby Fletcher, Tom McKay, Terry Grant, and Mark Martin, not to mention all the other members of the committee. Thank you. I would like to congratulate my fellow inductees. Congratulations. And I would like to thank everybody here tonight for coming out and welcoming us and sharing this special moment with all of us. It's a moment that I really wasn't expecting to see everybody. Jeannie, Alita, Marty, thank you. Table 7. Arlen. Table 7, everybody at Table 7, Dimmer, Leona, Mary, Carols, Terry, Cora, thank you. Thank you. It's just truly an honor and wonderful to see everybody again. I didn't realize how much I missed everybody. Thank you. As Cora said, we bowl 2 nights a week, Monday and Wednesday nights, and I bowled Monday and Wednesday nights for 20 years. Every night we bowled competitive. It was exciting. We laughed. We had so much fun. We had a wonderful team. It's truly beyond words. I personally had good nights, maybe a few bad nights, maybe more than a few bad nights. But in the end, Anita, I see you sitting there, hi. In the end, every night was a fun night, and I think that was important. We all had fun, we all enjoyed it. Thank you. I'm very fortunate to bowl. I was very fortunate to bowl the best women in the world. I bowled with so many wonderful people that truly it's impossible to name everybody. And if I started and I left somebody out, I would be very upset about it and very ashamed of myself. So to all the wonderful women in all the years that bowled with me and against me, thank you. You added to my life. I was also very fortunate to have wonderful sponsors. In the Monday and Wednesday night league, our sponsors were everything to us. And we had wonderful sponsors. To name a few, Bonanza Restaurants, Pine Tree Bowl, Belmar Lanes. My parents owned Belmar Lanes and they sponsored us a few times. Motown Records. And even though I never bowled for luxury lanes, Paul Stewart, thank you. You're the best. Thank you. I would also like to thank my mom, Goldie, and my dad, Julius, who provided me with every opportunity to bowl and accomplish everything that I have in my life. I know that they were there to support me, help me succeed, and without them, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I know that they would be very happy and proud to know that I have received this award. Next. And who I brought with me tonight? Table 1. My best buddy for 50 years. We met at Thunderbolt Lanes on a Saturday morning in the Cecil World War Traveling Lane. Debbie Holbeck. And I thank you very much for your friendship. like to introduce my partner in crime of 20 years, Sharon Reeder. I know nobody knows this, but Sharon is very much an adventurist. She is full of adventure. She pulls and drags me along everywhere we go. I'm dragging my feet, saying no, 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 and she's saying yes, 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 let's do it. We've done a lot of traveling out of the country. You always, Sharon, got us into something. I'm truly surprised that I'm still standing here able to receive this award. From the train rides through Slovakia, to the graveyards in Hungary, to the bars in Budapest, to being lost in the streets of Istanbul. And of course, the best trip of all, China. And last, but certainly not least, and the most important of all, I'd like to introduce my daughter, Katie. Kate, you are the reason I look forward to every day. You're smart, you're funny, and you're beautiful. I love your poems, and I can listen to you play the piano 24/7. You make me proud to be your mom. Doggone you, you keep me on my toes all the time. Never a dull moment. You are my sunshine, and I love you to the moon and back. Thank you very much.
All right, our next inductee is Kurt Pilon, and Kurt is going to be honored by the introduction of Jay Lang.
Here we go.
I'll be in about 20 minutes, don't worry. Everybody doing okay tonight?
Yes.
I don't like to give your typical speech when it comes to a Hall of Fame induction. You want to read the stats, they're printed on the paper, they're on, it's all plain black, I'm sure you've seen his name before, so I won't bore you with those kind of details. What I will have to say is, as we go through life, we meet a lot of very interesting, unique individuals. Some would say characters. I truly feel sorry for those who do not bowl or are not in the bowling world, because they miss out on some of God's truly unique individuals. Tonight I have the honor and the pleasure of inducting one of them, Kurt Pilon. Unique? Yes. Talented? Duh. Insane? Maybe. Genius? Quite possibly. I'm going to tell you a couple of my favorite stories, and they may actually embody all four of these characteristics. First story involves the 1993 USBC City Masters. Satellite Lane, which is now Home Depot. Scores were outrageous, and he's bowling against Hall of Fame member Ken Wyatt. Now, Kurt has a front 11, and I think he was down the first game by 20, 30 pins, whatever it might be. He's playing 15-5, whatever everybody else is playing. He grabs his blue dot, goes to the left corner to the back of the ball and shoots 300.
I was 19 years old, stunned, no idea what he was doing. So he comes back and I'm like, what was that all about? He's like, well, Wyatt's got the nut right now. His batch is better than mine. I think I need to get in his head a little bit.
It worked.
I'm like, you got the front 11. How is his reaction better than yours? And sure enough, I wanted to win that match. And I'm not sure if he got his head or not, but I was astounded. The second one happened at the Eliminator and the Roller in Vegas, also in the mid-90s. We go to Samstown. I'm there with Kurt, his dad Dave was in attendance, and he drives us both there. So we go in, it's a 3-game qualifier. I bowl bat the first set, he bowls bat the first set. I'm gonna bowl the second one. I said, okay, I'll sit around and watch and have a cocktail and whatever. He's got 3 games, so he's got 440 through 2. It's gonna take about 680 to make it. He goes front 9. And he's going about 25 to 1-2. So it was Legends of LA, he hooked it. Everybody's hooked it at that time. Gutter. 240, 670. He's been short. So I'm like, well, you know what? Maybe I'm going to give him some time to cool off. I don't think I need to be on to watch this. So I go upstairs, play the blackjack, come back down. No Kurt, no Dave. Like, okay, go outside the parking lot, no car. All right, maybe I'll get in a cab, go back to the showboat, and we bowl last set. Get back to the showboat, no Kurt, no Dave, nobody bowling. I'm like, okay. So we're staying at the Sam's with Teddy Bills in a man of war suite. I'm like, okay, well, the cab ride from Samstown to Showboat was about $10, $15, no big deal. Cab ride from the boat to the Sands was not exactly cheap. So about 2 hours driving around in the cab and looking for him and his dad. I was a little miffed. So I walk in the man of war suite, no lights on, nobody there. So I walk in, put a light on, I see a light on by the pool. There's a private pool. There's Kurt sitting by himself, feet in the pool, with a 6-pack of Heineken next to him. So I walk out, I'm like, hey buddy, how's it going? He's like, shh. I'm like, don't shush me. I said, where did you go? I said, I was looking for you. He's like, shh, sit down, grab a beer. I'm like, I said, I'm gonna drown you in this pool. I said, what are you doing? He's like, sit down, have a beer, and I'll tell you what happened. Well, after going front 9 double gutter, he promptly hops in the car with his dad, goes back to the showboat, shoots 530 for 2, and was 20 grand in the sweeper. So after about 30 seconds of that story, I was cool with it, and I'm like, all right, $50 for the cab. I mean, there's many, many more stories. I mean, a couple more I got today, which I had forgotten about. I mean, being on the Michigan Majors TV show, bowling double with Crafty, and his first shot, he looks at the camera and lets the ball go behind him. Bowling the All-Stars, put a $100 bill on the approach and told Marky it's his, and he kicks it down the lane, Mark Moore, and Marky got up, kicked it down the lane, and Ken Charette came running over and said, get out control of your guys right now. Anyway, there's many more, but obviously Kurt is one at every level, but that's not what makes him unique. That's just what makes him great. What makes him unique is his willingness to share all of the knowledge he's amassed over his career with anybody who's willing to listen. I spent countless hours in the shop sitting around waiting to get a ball drilled, and he'll talk about whatever with whoever, ball motion, patterns, and one simple question will turn into a 15-minute conversation. And it's just really incredible how brilliant it is when he comes to this game. Just truly brilliant. But today I'm happy because I get to stand here, and I'm going to tell you how great he is and what a talent he is. But I'm happy to stand here because I call him my friend. And I'm truly grateful for every conversation we've ever had. I look forward to every conversation in the future. You've done more for my bowling career than you'll ever know. I was here last year and you couldn't be here. And I said it last year, I'll say it again. If it wasn't for you, I would not be in the Hall of Fame. So, for something that's very long overdue, I'm very proud to present you with the newest member of the Good Detroit Hall of Fame, Kurt Pielon.
somewhat easy. First thing I'd like to say is I'm going to need a little bit of audience participation with just a couple things that I have going on. It'll make it easier for me, and I saw a couple people falling asleep earlier, so I'll keep it a little easy. But once again, everybody, Jay Lang, Hall of Fame. Thank you very much. I didn't quite know how something like this would go down, because I told myself about 20 years ago that I would never attend a Hall of Fame induction unless it was mine. Ever. So I missed a lot of people's. I missed a lot of people in attendance here. I missed Ostrings. I missed Mr. Ewalds. I missed Mr. Langs last year. Kerry Kraft. Nick Wissinger. A lot of good friends that have been in the Hall of Fame. PBA guys. Jason Koch. I watched his induction speech just the other day just to see how something went. But anyway, this was my first time at a Hall of Fame induction. So I said it was going to go that way, and I might attend a couple more just because the food was so good. But anyway, what I'm going to do is everybody here knows that the most important people to thank are the family. So what I'm going to ask for is a little bit of audience participation with helping me thank those people. So we'll see if anybody's paying attention. Can I get a small little hell yeah? No, I mean like a little hell yeah. Because what you don't understand is, because my ball threw a lot of strikes over the years, my parents are here. So can I get a hell yeah? Parents haven't attended a bowling thing in 20 years, so I get to tell them stories. And they still don't quite understand they weren't bowlers. So everybody here has parents, I know that's for sure. And simply, I would like to say thank you, and one more hell yeah, please. Hell yeah! Right, because that's what we're here for. We got friends here. I feel like I have a lot of friends here. The crowd is a little bit older than I expected, but I forgot that I was 40-something years old. So you forget a few things. But those are the most important people. And I know I'm here to thank people. That's what I'm here for. So I might need a little help again. My wife of 20 years is here. So everybody who has a wife, an ex-wife, a girlfriend, and if you're a bowler, that person has to put up with a lot of things. With the idea, I'm not sure, like, being a lot of friends here, I can blame all those late nights on you guys too. So, once again, thank you very much, and can I get a hell yeah? Hell yeah! All right. We've got my children here. Anybody with children? Hell yeah! Okay, well they've had to put up with me being on the road way too often. I missed a ton of my daughter's formative years. So anybody who's been on the road and tried to do a few things and chase their dreams understands that. So I'd like to say to the kids is, chase your dreams, but thank you very much for putting up with me. So can I get a hell yeah? Hell yeah! My idea with that was, I wanted somebody to shout at the people that were the most important. Everybody here can shout at them. We've all got our own important people. And I'm looking out at a lot of important people. People that I didn't expect to see, people that I'm happy to see, but everybody here is related to a bowler or put up with a bowler or something in some way, and I'm not the easiest to put up with, because I've been chasing this dream for a long time. But most people here have. No, really, I like the idea. I'm going to do my thanks. I'm going to thank a few people. I'm going to tell a tiny little story that just thanks some people. There's people that aren't here. There's people I'll forget. It's not going to be that important. Those people aren't even that important. It's just the idea. Well, they're important. I'm not going to name all those important people. But the idea would be, when I looked and I saw a lot of Hall of Fame speeches. I looked at baseball Hall of Fame speeches, football Hall of Fame speeches, and you thank everybody. I don't have a trainer to thank. I don't have anything like that. So I'm going to just thank some people. And it goes a story and it talks about bowlers. So not a long story. But what I want to tell you guys is each of the people and a lot of the people here, for me to get here, those people were bowlers and they had to make me want to compete. So when I was a youngster, and the first major thing that we attended was Michigan MJMA, Michigan Junior Majors. And so we were at 14 years old. And when I walked into a Michigan Major, so 14 years old, walking into an MJMA tournament, the first people that I saw throw shots, to me it was like being at a tour event. So the first three people that I saw, and they're not here, but the first three people I saw throw shots were Neville Kirby, who was 14 years old, Eric Tully, who most of us all know, and he looked like, he was the smoothest thing I'd ever seen, and Dale Hoffmeister. Not all of you know all those people, but they're all superstars, they're all Hall of Famers. And when I was 14 years old, I thought they were the best of the best. So they made me work harder. So therefore, part of being here. Now all this time, and what I want you guys to think about in the background is Mr. Jay Lang, Chris Sand, Jason Lewis, who's not here, we wish he could be here. We all worked out together, we practiced together, we went to these tournaments together, and all it made us do was trying to beat each other. Well, when you're trying to beat a bunch of Hall of Famers, you get pretty good. So just thanking those people, and those people were the first people I saw walk into that building, and they made me work harder. So can I get a hell yeah? Hell yeah! And it's not just the people, it's that they were that good. The next level that made me think about people was I was 16, 17, 18 years old, and I would go watch the Thursday All-Stars. I would watch the best bowlers in Detroit. So I would see Nick Wissinger bowl. I would see Kerry Kraft bowl, who was younger than I was, but still. Mark Moore, phenomenal, and still looks the same. A lot of guys that are still here. Ken Wyatt, he still throws it the same. Larry Walker comes to mind. He's not here, he throws the ball the same. So when I was 17 or 18 and I wanted to go see what Detroit's best and my competition had, they made me work harder. And some of those guys, all those guys are Hall of Famers. So not only does Detroit have phenomenal talent, but they made me, Jay, Chris, work hard to get where we're at. So can I get a hell yeah for Detroit bowlers? Hell yeah. And there's a few others. I see Alita Silly. Alita doesn't know this, but she was one of my favorite bowlers growing up because she was from Detroit. So I'm watching the women's tour, and I get to see somebody from Detroit. And so, like, me and her were close. She didn't know it, but we were close. I'm like, yeah, the girl made the show, let's go. The same thing happened when Harry Sullins made a show. When anybody from home made a show, I felt like they were on our team because they were from Detroit. So not only did I want to beat them, but I thought that there was some place to go outside of Detroit if you wanted to bowl. So for those people, we're going to give a hell yeah. Hell yeah. We're going to pop a person in there that kind of is in between the MJMA stuff and the Michigan bowlers, which was Dan Ottman. Dan Ottman ran MJMA. We lost him a few years ago. We're going to give a thanks to him. We all owe a little bit to him because when we were kids, he taught us to appreciate the game of bowling and the history that it had. So this is a little bit of history, and we're going to thank Dan Ottman and get a hell yeah for him because he taught us a little bit about that. Hell yeah. Thank you. So we're going to tell a little story. We're going to go a little bit further. After that, we went, and all of us, after joining the travel leagues and working our butts off and bowling MJMA, the next thing for us to do was either go on tour or bowl some high rollers, and the money in the high rollers was big at the time. So the same group of guys. So we're talking Chris Sand, Jay Lang, Jason Lewis, Mark Moore, Kerry Kraft, Nick Wissinger, Dave Ewald, a whole group of guys. We worked our butts off, and we could make a lot of money in in 2 or 3 tournaments in a year. So we worked really hard. Well, my first trip to going and bowling a high roller had 2 parts to it. I was working at the time, which I haven't had too many jobs, but I was working. And I worked for a guy that Jay's dad put me together with. And I was putting windows in, believe it or not. But anyway, the afternoon that I'm supposed to get on a flight to go and bowl the high roller, which pays, $200 grand and has been practicing for a couple weeks, this guy tells me that I'm not going to be able to leave. I'm putting in windows at noon, and he says, hey, we're going to need you. Like, can't leave today. I had a flight at 3 o'clock. to go to Vegas and go make some money. And short part of that is they told me to go get lunch at about noon, and I've never been back to True story. But the important part is when I showed up in Vegas, and we all showed up in Vegas, it wasn't just me. I showed up with a group of guys, and always happy. And I feel like I'm surrounded by a group of people now, and are behind me a little bit. So when we went to the High Roller, it was a group of guys from Michigan that worked their butts off to go try and make some money. That's what we did. The first people I saw were amazing. So same as MGMA, same as watching the best Detroit Bowlers Bowl. I saw Pat Healy. I saw Bill Rowe. Some names you might not know. I saw Rudy Rex. A guy named Mike Newman. If you don't know that name, that's the name. I saw a guy named Chris Barnes. I hate that guy.
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah. So I saw guys that I was trying to beat for the next 25 years. I still haven't beaten them. But it keeps you sharp. It keeps you trying to beat these guys. And realistically, those are the people that when I went home and got my butt kicked for the first time, they made me work harder. So when I think of people to thank, I'm thinking of the competition. So to those guys who were phenomenal and are phenomenal to this day, I say thanks and I get a hell yeah. There's also a few new guys. And when I say new guys, I'm thinking as you get older, when I was younger, my favorite guys were the 40 and 50-year-old guys. Because what I wanted to see was how good are they? How good is this guy over here? How good is this name? And when I was 20 years old, I liked bowlers. I liked bowlers as far as friendship. I liked bowlers as far as the talent. I like talent in anything. But because I'm only good at bowling, we have to like bowling. Not good at much else, to be honest with you. Not good at much. But one of the things, and working in the pro shop has to do with this too, but what will keep you going is trying to beat everybody. So there's a group of young guys that are always coming up. And I'm going to say thanks to some of the young guys. Andrew Burke, who's here. Aaron Lorenz, who just came in 15th in the U.S. Open this week. Ronnie Sparks Jr. Craig Manford. These are guys that are going to be in the Hall of Fame. And I get to deal with them, practice with them, trying to beat them on tour, trying to beat them at home, and help them get better. But it helps you get better and stay better. So we're not only thanking some of the guys you grew up with and some of the people that you competed against, but also the guys that keep you going and make you want to get better still. So those guys, we'll get a hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
One more little story, and for some reason I actually named this one. I'm going to call it Karen. I don't know why, but when I was writing some things, the end result was for me to think about that I like bowlers, I like people. Jay said I give up some time and talk to some people in the pro shop a little bit too often, so we won't go too far off base. But from working in pro shop and from bowling for 20 years, one thing I also learned is I hate boulders. I literally, I cannot stand hearing one more story about how somebody's 10th frame just went. The frame-by-frame stories, even some of the family here, Dad comes home from bowling at midnight, and he's a little in the bag, and you say, howdy bowl, and he goes, I go ring 10. Right. So you get the idea. Well, being in the pro shop business, you hear that on a daily basis. Somebody says to you, I want this, I want that. You give them the best you can, you help them the best you can, and 2 days later they come back and they go, this ball sucks. And you think, you suck. But anyway, but over 20 years of dealing with those people, what I found out is even those people, the reason that you deal with them, the reason that you like them, the reason that you're in business, in the bowling business, in any direction, is because those people care too. So the customer of any business in bowling cares about their bowling. They care to bowl good, they care to strike, they care to do their best. Sometimes they care to look good. Your 180 average bowler shows up in $200 worth of clubs. They care about their nickname. How many people you know named Iceman in bowling? J-Line, this is JLT. We have a lot of nicknames for people. But the reason they come up with those nicknames, and what I figured out over the years, is that they care. Like they want to be good at something. And all of you are here today because somebody related to you or somebody involved in your life cares about bowlers and cares about bowling. So I'm here to just say thank you to you guys and give my own hell yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hell yeah. All right, our next inductee is Christopher Sand. I guess everybody's been calling you Chris. I don't know, so it's Chris Sand. And Mike Vicente is going to be presenting his award.
I'm going to start off by saying, wow. Feline, you're amazing. I think it's hell yeah, for sure. It's incredible, you know, when you think about Hall of Fame. I look out there and I see all the bowlers that I've bowled with, competed with, that, as Feline would say, they've probably kicked my tail so many times I don't know what to do. But this is truly a great pleasure and a great honor to be up here talking about Chris. Before I get too deep though, Feline, I want to tell you, today in the 10th frame, I had changed I grabbed the hell out of the ball, made the nose. I'm still pissed. That's true. That's very true. I think you also, without knowing it, you stole half my stories. You know, we were on the same page, and I'll get to those here in a second or two. For 41 plus years, Chris has been, 41 years Chris has been here. His mother and I have been partners for well over 41 years in every endeavor that we've ever done in the bowling business. And I think about kind of the start of the journey, as most of you, I'm sure, reflect when you get this kind of an honor or tribute. I can remember Don Sand, Chris's dad, and Joanne hiring me to work in their pro shop. I think it was called Pocketed Pro Shop at Denby Lanes. Is that right? They were teaching me the pro shop business. And we bowled All-Stars together, and we bowled tournaments together, and I dragged Joanne around every tournament I could. And her mother would bake us chocolate chip cookies, and we would take those on the road as happy as we could be, in our generation anyway. But Chris came along, and Don and I played softball in a Sunday morning league at Heilman Field in Detroit. And Chris was walking around carrying his baseball bat, and you know, we were pitching balls to him. He was knocking the heck out of the ball back then. And that's kind of how we got started. Chris had to make a decision. His freshman year at De La Salle, he had to make a decision whether he was going to bowl or play baseball. And obviously, Chris, you chose bowling. Look where it's got you now. Your whole career, when you think about it, top salesman for Storm, working for Dave and Lori at Turbo Driven to Bowl. And by the way, Turbo and Mr. Luann Sarah, thank you so much for all your sponsorship, all your give back. She's not in Detroit and the Bowl. And that's a hell yeah. Without you guys, I don't know where we would be. Bowling desperately needs sponsors. It needs commitment from people who can give back to it, to help it get back off its knees and on its feet again, to be something special that we've all got to share. Dan Ottman, as I think of this group, and I look at this group as kind of a whole, they were a little bit behind me, and we had our group, of course, and our players. Joe Karjanki tried to carry me to an ABC title. We came up just a little short, but Joe, thank you so much for bowling so well at the old ABCs for us. But I think of this group, I think of Dan Ottman, and Dan Ottman put these young bowlers in a position to really develop and play the game at such a high level, it's incredible. It really is incredible. And as Joanne drove these kids from tournament to tournament in that van, place to place all over Michigan, Ohio to shoot for scholarship money, these kids were setting records and turning the world upside down. We couldn't wait. Some of us couldn't wait to get them to the next level, to be able to compete and bowl with them, try to get them on our team, try to get them a part of what we were trying to do and build and develop. That's how good they were. But Dan did a very special job for bowling back in the day with all his youth leagues and, of course, his tournament and JMA. From there, my thoughts with Chris go on to, obviously, many, many stories, many accomplishments. And Chris and I would work out together, and somehow I gave him a few lessons, and we would also have many conversations about bowling and the mental aspect of bowling. And I don't know if I helped him as much as he might have helped me without realizing it, because he made me, as Kurt would say, think a little harder about how to be successful. Chris, you've done one hell of a job. I can tell you, most of you that maybe seen Chris bowl the Masters and bowl Parker Bone on television. Hazel Park had a big crowd to watch Chris bowl. Joanne was at the tournament site. We had to rush her out of there. I don't know how we got her out of there. The Hamtramck was her baby, and she never left that thing. So, Chris, you really got your mother the hell out of work. But she got there, and I couldn't go there to watch it. I had to go home and watch it by myself. And I can still remember almost every shot that was thrown. It was pretty special. And I think of a couple of 7-pins and a PBA Hall of Famer that ended up beating you shooting 300 on television to your 250. That's quite a story for me, and I'll never forget that as I think about that and what you've accomplished in your game of bowling. Scholarship money, MJMA titles. You know, you guys, the P-line hit on it pretty good. You guys came up at an interesting time. I think about Mitch winning the Super Winky. Did you win it more than once? Once, okay, was that $100 grand? Yeah. We've got a chance to bowl the high roller, the Super Winky, and you could train and practice and get ready. And I remember P-line training. One night we were talking, and I'm getting back a little off the story here, but we were talking, and P-line said to me, I got to get more extension. They're hooking there, and I got to get the ball through the lane. And, you know, I'm sitting there working with him a little bit, but pretty much he was telling me what he was going to do. And we were talking, and I think about Chris and his experience at the roller and at the Super Hoinky and winning sweepers and P-line and Chris cooking up ball surfaces and things they had to do to win. And it was pretty incredible how they managed to do that. Again, as I think about all the journey itself, from the beginning of giving up baseball, going to bowling, traveling to tournaments, having their group, couldn't wait for their group to come up and compete and either play with us or against us. There's one more story. We were bowling the Chamois Bird, and Chris was there, and Pelon was there, and we had a couple teams on the lanes, and they're bowling great. I mean, they are bowling great, and I'm stinking up the joint. I cannot get out of my own way. And Pelon looks over, he says to me, he goes, hey, are you ever going to throw a strike? I don't know if you even remember that, but I do. Chris says, don't pay any attention to him. And they carried me to a nice check, by the way. I did manage to make a few spares. But, you know, certain things you just remember when you think about that group. And that group to me is Jay Lang, David Ewald, Michelle Ewald, of course, Kurt and Chris, as they all traveled together and bowled. And now it looks like all of them are in the Hall of Fame. That's pretty incredible when you think about it. David bowled at Hazel Park Bowl for years on Friday night. And I tried my best to build that league up. And all I could ever hear from everybody that I asked, will you join our Friday night league? We got great money, good jackpots. All they would say is, no, I can't beat Ewald.
Hell yeah!
We had 24 teams. Next year, 6 of them left because they couldn't beat Ewald. Well, I was talking to Ewald one night, and he got on one of his tears, and he shoots 800, and he's winning the Masters, and he shoots another 300 and 800. And we're just sitting there talking. I go, what in the heck got into you? What's going on? And he says, well, I was bowling terrible, but I went to see the Sandman, Chris, for a lesson. He says, he knows my game. I says, well, make me an appointment with him. Do you remember that, Dave?
Every year I go see it.
I know. So those are my stories. That's my recollection of the journey and the thoughts of the last month or so since Chris had asked me to do this for him, and I'm so honored to do it. At this moment in time, I'm going to introduce the lefty of the team. You made your team, right? Finally got your lefty. Got to have a lefty when you're building a good all-star team. Mr. Chris Sand, Hall of Fame.
Hello? I apologize I brought my height. Wow, this is gonna be tough. Y'all asked why I look so different tonight, and I don't know how I'm gonna get through this without crying the entire night, so that's a little bit about it. So I had to bring my iPad this evening because I couldn't read my own handwriting after writing my speech, so here goes. Hell yeah, right, P-Long?
Hell yeah.
Great, I get to follow you every single time. No audience participation, I guarantee it. You're fine, you can sit down. So I want to start, thank you for this great honor. When I received the call that I was going into the Hall of Fame, I was shocked and honored. The call came from Ed Austrian. Thank you, Ed, for your nomination and making this possible. Whew. This whole process gave me lots of time to reflect on my career. Wow, it's amazing how things work out. Before winning the City Masters, probably one of my greatest accomplishments, I'd never met Ed or Jeff. Heck, I don't even think I bowled at 300 bowl. Anyway, somehow I won the Masters at 300 bowl. Even more impressive, I beat Jeff. And we know how tough it is to beat Jeff in that bowling center. This win, as Jeff tells the story, convinced Jeff to come see me for lessons. From that day forward, Jeff and I have had an amazing relationship. I'm honored that you allowed me to think I taught you anything. I'm humbled. Oh my God. It's amazing how all things come together. Without that win, this Hall of Fame nomination may never have been possible, and I may never have met Jeff and Ed. I want to thank both of you for everything. Ed, thank you for the nomination, and thank you for making this possible. So now I'm in the Hall of Fame. I have to give a speech. How do you give a Hall of Fame speech? I have no idea. Much like Kurt, I've never attended one of these things. Never even watched it. So what do we do nowadays when we don't have the answer? I Googled it. Let me tell you, it didn't help. Not at all. First thing I see, Joe Torre, too long. Great, now I got that to think about. Now I can sit here and bore you people all evening. That's exactly what I wanted to think. So I started with a list of all the people I wanted to thank, people I felt who influenced me during my career. Holy cow, what a long list. So many people to thank. I've been blessed to travel to so many great places and meet so many great people. How do I thank them all? So now I have a list and no speech. So as I said before, how do you give a Hall of Fame speech? I started that list, and Google did help. It said think of a topic. So I had to come up with a topic. And the topic is, it takes a village to raise a child. No, this does not mean I'm voting for Hillary Clinton. As I mentioned before, I'm blessed. I've met so many amazing people, but I thought about my kids, Tommy and Allison. And I thought I'd use this as a teachable moment. After all, I did make the Tough Coaches Top 100 this year. Tonight, my children have to listen to me. They have nowhere else to go. No phones, no computer in front of them. Besides, I have a microphone. I'm in front of a podium. I'm in front of this room. I have a chance to get their attention. To my kids, Tommy, your mother and I are so proud of you. Tommy currently interning for GE and going to Wayne State pursuing his master's. You've grown into an amazing young man. And my daughter, Allison. Allison's going to be 12 this month. She's going to give me a heart attack. She's growing so fast into a beautiful, intelligent young lady. I want both of you to look around this room and realize how many great people are here for you. Try to learn from everyone you come in contact with. You have a village surrounding you. Find what you're passionate about and go after it. If you have a dream, chase it. We are here to help you in every possible way. Cameron and I love you so much and couldn't be more proud. Thank you for being here and sharing this wonderful night with me. To my mom Joanne, this award should go to you. You surrounded me with an amazing village and introduced me to so many great people, so many who have influenced me along the way. As Mike already alluded to, I can't believe how many miles and hours you sacrificed to take me to lead tournaments everywhere and everywhere. I owe you so much, and will never be able to thank you. I love you. Thank you. Charlie, thank you for being so supportive and understanding. As Mom and I gallivanted all over this great country, we couldn't have done it without your support. To my sister Tina, I want to thank you and Brandon for being here tonight. You're an amazing sister. You've always been there for me, lending me your ear and providing great insight and advice. I can't believe my sister has her own family. You and Brandon are great together. You have two beautiful daughters. I'm so happy for you. And thank you. To my dad and Kathy, thank you for your support and understanding. Remember a time, every birthday and every Christmas present, there was a bowling ball involved. Thank you for supporting my dream. Dad, I love our yearly golf outing. Thank you for putting this trip together. I truly look forward to it every year. I look forward to many more in the future. Thank you, and I love you both. Mike Luceni, my presenter, a great mentor, and as Cameron and I call you, the triple threat. I learned how to bowl, how to teach, and how a business and its customers should be treated, all from you. Your positivity and support of everyone you touch is amazing. Thank you for trusting in me at an early age. From keeping score at the goalpost no tap tournament, being a floor boy at Liberty Lanes, which is now at Cambridge. For allowing me to start coaching in your clinics at the age of 16. You taught me the pro side of the business. I'll tell my one story of the night. I would always come into the pro shop at Liberty Lanes when I got out of high school. Mike would always bring in a new bowling ball, the newest, latest, and greatest. This week he happened to walk in with a Columbia Beast. That was the hot one at that time. And in only the way Mike can, I asked him who that ball was for, and he said, it's for you. You have to lay it out and drill it, and I'm leaving. So great. My first bowling ball, Mike's not around. So needless to say, I laid this ball out and drilled it. And as some of you know, I can be a little stubborn. I didn't want to admit that I was wrong, but I was. Mike asked me to put a half finger and a half thumb. Yeah. It thumped the whole way down the lane. Mike would never raise his voice. He just told me, you know what? Someday that ball may come in handy. And in my typical stubborn way, I took it to the tournament that weekend, an MJMA tournament, M66 Bowl in Battle Creek, and proceeded to bowl 299 twice in an 8-game block. I want to thank you for being here and being my presenter. Thank you for everything you've done, and I love you. Lori Moritz. While we're on the business side of things, I have to recognize you. Lori, you've taught me so much about the bowling business. What you've done in your career is amazing and a little intimidating. Your brilliance, creativity, work ethic, and generosity has climbed Turbo Grips to the greatest accessory company in the business. Thank you for seeing something in that young kid that used to come to TurboTech. Thank you for seeing something, and thank you for allowing me to grow and develop under your tutelage. Lori and her smooth husband Jeff are here this evening. Thank you to both. You've treated Camel and I like family. We love you and thank you. Lori's an amazing person, and it's easy to understand why. Her father, Dave Bernhardt. Dave is the most passionate and devoted person I've ever met. Your passion and work ethic is an inspiration to us all. I thank you for everything you've done for this sport and my family. I'm honored to share this night with you. I couldn't think of anyone more deserving of a Lifetime Achievement Award. Congratulations, and thank you. I'm fortunate enough to have two tables representing me, my fellow Turbo co-workers. I don't think you want me to go on and tell anybody some of these stories, so I want to say thank you. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to share this moment with me. Thank you. I could go on all night about the people I've met in this great sport. I don't want to take up any more of your valuable time, but I do have to mention a few people. Bob Castle, Fred Bouse, as Dan already alluded to, Dan Ottman. None of us would be here without Dan Ottman. Bill and Barbara Chrisman, Hank Boomershine, Dave Sims, Ernest Godick, and Kenna, and all the people at Storm Products who allowed me to grace their presence for 10 years. If I missed anybody, I apologize. As I stated, it takes a village to raise a child, and as you can see, I have a very large village. Thank you again, Mom. I do have one more person to thank, and I saved the best for last. Easily the prettiest thing I've ever seen in a bowling center. My beautiful wife and my beautiful and amazing wife, Camel. I love you with all my heart. Your amazing smile is what I look forward to seeing every day. You're my best friend and my soulmate. You make me so happy, and I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with you. Camel, I love you. And with that, I'd like to close. Thank you to Mark Martin, Libby Fletcher, and the entire board. This is an amazing, amazing honor. Thank you all for sharing this with me. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and good night.
When we're at this part of the evening, I just stay out of the way. As an MC, this is about you guys, but I have to add one thing. I think it was the very first time I ever bowled in what was called the Crucian. Now it's the Tom McKay tournament. I was paired with Don Sand, and Don was so gracious and so nice to me. I only say that because I think you all know the apple don't fall far from the tree. So that's a hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
All right, our final inductee is Richard Schultz, and the honoree is going to be inducted by our very own Ken Charette.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First, I want to congratulate all the inductees and all the honorees tonight. This is your night. Congratulations. Rick Schultz, I'm proud to say, has been my friend for over 30 years. And if you ever see him bowl, he doesn't go through all this gyrations and everything. He just gets up, throws his ball, gets a strike, gets a spare, sits down. Don't be fooled. He has plenty of fire in his belly. You do not win tournaments, or you do not bowl these 300 games without having that. And believe me, Rick has that. Rick loves the game of bowling, and always giving it back to bowling. He has been on the Michigan Majors Bowling Association Board of Directors for over 20 years. Plus, he's also in the Michigan Majors Hall of Fame. He has coached high school bowling for 7 years. Participates in many bowling charity events. The thing that I really like about him is his sportsmanship. He's always urging bowlers, rooting for them to be good in qualifying. In match play, congratulates them both on a great shot and never misses shaking their hands, winning or losing. Then there is his number one fan, his mother. She has all his tournaments. I believe she has every game that he's ever bowled in a tournament on record. She will say, if you go up and ask her, how's Richard doing? He'll say, oh, he's doing great today. And if not, she'll say, well, he's not doing so good today, but believe me, he is going to get better. Well, Mrs. Schultz, I don't have to ask you how Richard is doing tonight. He is doing very well because he is being inducted into the Detroit Bowling Hall of Fame. Come on up here. Rich, Michigan State Bowling Association, you get and also the pen and pencil. And from the Detroit Bowling Association, you get this plaque and also your pen and the envelope for the Hall of Fame. Please wear them proudly. Congratulations.
All right, I didn't prepare nothing like everybody else around here. I'm just gonna wing it. Put the old guy on the end, hoping he would fall asleep. But still up, I'm still up. So, I'd like to thank everybody for being here today. I asked Mark the other day, I said, how do you thank everybody? He said, well, just thank the most important people. Everybody here is the most important people in my life. Everybody I've been affiliated with bowling or even run into, I always try to make their day better. As Ken alerted to, I'm probably one of the nicest guys out there they don't want to beat in bowling. But that's okay, that's my defense. Don't let them fool you, that's my defense. I always like to have fun in bowling, I always have. And I always will, and I always will congratulate somebody on a great shot, or even if it's not a great shot, so what? You know what, you did it, it worked, and if you beat me, and if you didn't, you didn't. But they always told me, said, oh, you're too nice, Rick, you'll never win. Well, I proved that theory wrong too. I did win, and it's all right to be nice out there. I know some people get wrapped up in their own game and everything, and I'll let them go. But at the end of the game, I'll thank them and tell them what a good game they did bowl. That's just the way I was. And I tried to instill that when I coached the kids. The kids would come to me with one bowling ball, and thanks to Chris, getting me on staff with Storm and stuff, I was able to give them some equipment and stuff. But I always told the kids when they came to me, I said, first thing off, we will have fun. If we win along the way, great. But if we don't win, we still had fun. And we always seem to win. So it seemed to be a good theory. So, other than that, there's, you know, I'd like to thank my mom, like Ken said, she's been at every tournament, chartered me. She don't see as well as she used to. She's got a cheat sheet. She's got a cheat sheet now, or got to ask. But, you know, I appreciate her going to every tournament with me. And all my family and friends that are here today, I think I have about 40. You can all stand up for a minute so they all see. But actually, this is a pretty unique class here. Dave Bernhardt's being presented, and he said to me, well, you're getting the award, Rick. And I said, yeah, but Dave, if you didn't make the products, maybe I wouldn't. So that was one. Chris got me on staff with Storm, which helped me provide my kids with bowling balls and stuff on my high school team. Kurt Pilon drilled them all. Tom Stockton over there helped me with my coaching and get my career started in high school bowling. So I find that it's very unique that we're all coming together at the same time. Mike Licente was my coach at one time. I've had a lot of great coaches over the years. I had Don Ray, I had Sean Kluge, I had Bob Chamberlain, and Eddie Martka. I don't know, some people probably remember them out there, but they used to bowl with Mike, and Mike showed me a lot. I'd like to thank Joanne and Mike, who gave my high school bowling team free bowling all the time. That's unique. I know it's hard for proprietors to do that for high school bowling because bowling is not what it was when I was coming up. And when I came up, you used to see 3-shift bowls, 6, 9, 12, and there was never any open bowling to practice. But they're willing to give this to these high school bowlers to try to keep the game of bowling going, and I think it's a compliment to the bowlers and to them and how well they have helped the organization and the kids in this world today. And other than that, I better thank my wife because she lets me go. She lets me go all the time. And also my daughter Bridget's here, who wasn't able to make it to my Hall of Fame one in Michigan Major. I'm glad my daughter Bridget's here. And my mother-in-law's here. I have all kinds of family and friends here. I'd just like to thank you all. My Uncle Les, who used to take me bowling, who taught me about every sport in the world, and everybody that's here. So thank you all. I appreciate it.
That was so great to hear Rick. That it's not spoken very often, but to hear Rick say about, you know, just having fun and just relishing in a good shot, whether you did it or whether somebody else did it, and just going out and just having fun. Because I've had the privilege of my bowling team, which I've bowled with for 30-some years. We've won 6 championships in our league, and I'm going to tell you, every single one of those championships, when we got to championship day, we were the same happy-go-lucky bunch. We were just having fun, abusing each other mercilessly, just having the best time in the world. And you can see the other teams were all tight and tense and real intense. And I tell you, every single one of those times, I don't know how many times we were in the championship we didn't win, but a lot more we won than we did because we were having fun. And we would still congratulate the other guys if they had a good shot or something. So glad to hear somebody say that because it is about having fun. So, congratulations again. How about a big round of applause to all of our inductees in the Hall of Fame tonight. All right, we now move on to some special awards that the association gives out every year, and the first award is the Thomas W. McKay Award for Lifetime of Service to the Sport of Bowling. And we're fortunate that the namesake of the award, Tom McKay, is here to present the award to Dave Bernhardt Sr.
Thank you, Paul. I'd like to also extend my congratulations to the new inductees today. It's funny, Kurt was up here talking. I've been, I think, just about to every one of these Hall of Fame dinners. And he started talking about the bowlers, talking about this frame and that frame and so on. You should have been here in 1974 when Bill Bonetta got in. We must have heard every tournament he ever bowled in and every frame. He was talking. Dorothy and Rose Marsh, you probably remember that. Boy, he would talk forever, and I think we heard every single frame he bowled. In 1992, I was president of the American Bowling Congress, and after that season, George Pribla suggested that we have this award and be given to someone who has made major contributions to the advancement of bowling and the bowling industry during their lifetime, and that the award would be named after me. This is a great honor, and it's nice to have my name associated with all the great, outstanding people that are received it each year, and the Hall of Fame Committee is the one that decides on this recipient. Now, past winners are Agnes Ekstrom, John Gabby, George Pribula, Rose Marsh, Ken Charette, Dorothy Thompson, John Schmelko, Joe Norris, Herb Fosh, Mary Mahachi, Joe Paulus, Dan Ottman, George Zaney, Rick Strobel, Lou Ansara, Tony Lindeman, Anita Canline, Joe Botana, Matt Fiorito, Dee Skorsky, Mark Voigt, Mark Martin, Libby Fletcher, Sharon Shildreth, and Ann Block. Many of those are with us tonight. If they please stand, let's give them a hand showing their appreciation. This year we're going to present the award to Dave Bernhardt. Dave, if you please come forward. Dave has been a supporter of bowling in our association for well over 20 years. He's bowled in our association team tournament on a regular basis and bowled in at least 25 of our Masters tournaments and all of the senior Masters tournaments since he's been eligible. He's been a sponsor of many of the local USBC events, including the Masters, the Senior Masters, the Junior Masters, the Queen's Tournament for many years. As owner of Turbo 2-in-1 Grips, he supports high school and collegiate bowling. Turbo founded the Turbo Tech Collegiate Expo in 2011 as an educational and recruiting platform for high school students for 3 days of on-lane classroom instruction, capped by a 6-game tournament where students bowl in front of college coaches for an opportunity to earn scholarships and get more information on college bowling programs. The event has averaged over 130 high school students and sold out this year with 168 participants. Turbo has also been a sponsor and supporter of the Michigan Junior Masters Association and year-end scholarship awards for many years. He's been a participant in the McKay Invitational Doubles for a number of years and donates shirts and jackets that are used for auction items. The money we raise in that event goes to the Carmanos Cancer International Bowling Hall of Fame. Turbo also sponsors several national collegiate bowling programs and has continued to support women's professional bowling. He's a sustaining member of the International Bowling Museum and Hall of Fame in Arlington and donates generously to annual funding programs. As you can see, Dave is a real supporter of bowling, and he truly fits the description of someone who has made major contributions to bowling, and it's my privilege to present him this award this year.
Thanks, Tom. When I got this award, I was informed about it. I was kind of, why me? I just like to help people. help everybody, not just individuals, teams, youth especially. Before I get into a couple little stories, but I want to thank all the nominees and now Hall of Famers. Congratulations. It's not about me, it's about you guys and the accomplishments you guys done to get here. I'd like to thank my family. My wife says I forget, so I gotta get my notes up. People that supported me through life. I started bowling when I was 6 years old, 6.5. My dad took me to a bowl alley. Maybe some older people can remember the bowl alley, but it's at Chicago Road in Van Dyke. It was I think it's 12 lanes if I remember rightly. And I had a little Coca-Cola shirt. We were sponsored by Coca-Cola. My dad took me there all the time. And that's when I started my career. So approximately 62 years now I've been bowling. But it's led me to here. And part of that, is a few stories I'm going to tell is why I try to get involved of giving and helping people. But first I'd like to thank my family and my co-workers. My daughter Lori, she runs the business. I develop it, she runs it. And I'm not taking anything away from me as being the owner, but my daughter develops to running it in different programs that we have. So thank you, Lori. I'd like to thank Ed Ostred for nominating for this honor. Thank you, Ed. You didn't have to do that. I'm not up here to get, these are kind of rewards, but thank you anyway. USBC committee, thank you for listening to Ed. I appreciate that too. My co-workers, as you can see, my son's here and our new grandchild, she got a little testy, so I apologize if she interrupted a few things, but my son, my other daughter, Nicole, Dave Jr., my son-in-law, Jeff, my grandsons are over here, my nephew, and a few other co-workers, so thank you for coming. It's really appreciated.
Love you.
Love you too. And last, I want to thank my wife. I couldn't have done the things unless she let me do these things. She does get on me when I'm going to quit. Why are you doing this at your age? You do other things. And I keep telling her if I quit bowling, I'm going to get old. And that's not going to happen. So, thank you, dear. I love you. It's all kind of led up to, I'm just going to tell quick stories here. When I got inducted to the Hall of Fame 2000, it happened kind of a funny way. George Pribla nominated me, and I got the information for him, and I was inducted. But prior to that, Joe Norris had watched me and Gene Stuss and I, won the doubles, USBC. And I had met Joe maybe a couple times before, but I think that he would know me. He watched our whole event, 3 games, and he was one of the first ones down to congratulate Gene and I, and that touched me. When I was inducted, without my knowledge, Joe Norris was my inductee, and it kind of like, wow. And we talked to someone, and he says, I always like to give back. And that kind of set here to where I want to do the same thing. And it kind of taught me a lesson is, it doesn't matter what you have, it's what you can give. You know, and I had nothing, but it's still to be able to give. And I think Joe, bless his heart, he's in my heart. He sent me a picture of him was signed, and that's one story. College Expo. This was, what, 4 years now, 5 years now? We started out, we've been to a couple of different places. Canton, we've been at twice. Rochester, this year we're going back to Indianapolis, not going back to the first time. Last year sold out with like 30 or 40 on the waiting list, but the bowling center was only so big, so we couldn't go more. So this year we're going to Indianapolis, which we're going to have over 200 kids, and we're looking forward to that. It's been a great success. It's kind of like a football combine that the National Football League has. The coaches come in, see the kids, and they've got a lot of scholarship from that. So, Lori, Chris, and the other workers that work on this, thank you. Talking this more about Turbo. If it wasn't for all you people, all you young boys that, I call them young boys, back here, Jay, Dave Ewald, and Jeff, and the rest of them, thank you for using our products and supporting us. And like everybody else in here, thank you. The people in the pro shops in here, thank you. This young fellow over here is falling asleep, but I want to thank you too for your support in the Detroit area. Thank you. Hell yeah. Again, it's been a long night. I don't want to be boring with stories. Thank you again, and bye Turbo.
Well, congratulations again. Our next award is the Judge John D. Watts Award, and that's for making outstanding contributions to the promotion of the sport of bowling. And here to present the award, again, it's always your honor to me, formerly a judge, but now he's our Assistant Wayne County Treasurer, David Chemansky.
Okay, it is my pleasure to be here. I want to thank the USBC for inviting me again this year. It's amazing you guys keep putting up with me, and I want to congratulate the inductees. You know, this is really the only crowd can appreciate what you all have been through to get where you are today. Because most people just see in those tournaments rolling those fabulous balls, and they don't know all the hours and all the days and all the headaches and all the heartaches that went into getting where you are. So congratulations to all of you. So I am Dave Chemansky. I was a probate judge for 20 years. That's why they keep bringing me up here, because this is the Judge John D. Watts Award. And many of you probably remember my dad, Judge Frank Chemansky, who played football for the Lions so long ago they were actually good. You know, I heard a rumor that when the Fords bought the Lions, they got the team together and took them out bowling to teach them to build camaraderie. Who knew that this much later they'd still keep ending up in the gutter. So, it might be good to get them out here so you guys can teach them how to keep it out of the gutter.
Yeah.
We need a good team here. This award is for outstanding contribution in the promotion of the sport of bowling. And bowling means a great deal to me because there's so much work, and Tom Stockton has done so much work with the youth. And this is so important because in the juvenile court, we find that over 80% of the kids who get in trouble and come to juvenile court have no involvement in any extracurricular activity. Bowling is something people sort of overlook at sometimes, but it does build self-esteem. And you will find those kids who've got no direction in life, and yet you get them out to an alley, you get them out there and teach them to bowl, and it gives them a feeling of worth. And they may not bowl very well, such as me, but just being part of the family means so much to them. Judge John D. Watts was a judge back in the 40s and 50s. That's when the lines were really good. And he had a show called Traffic Court where he did radio presentations of traffic court cases. He's the precursor to People's Court and Judge Judy and Judge Mathis and all those other judges who we keep seeing on TV all the time. But he also really was dedicated to the sport of bowling. He promoted it through his shows. He came out to many of the tournaments, and therefore he was a great supporter of bowling, recognizing the benefits that it presented to people in the community. This is a little case that he did one time, just to give a hint of what this guy was like. He one time was getting ready to sentence a guy who had been in a car accident and fatally injured a person. And he said to him, he says, I can sentence you to 4 to 5 years, and I'm ready to do that today. Or, for the next 5 years, you will work to support his family that's been left behind. A very creative use of of the sentencing guidelines, and so the person didn't go to jail, and instead, he was making $120 a week, and he agreed to pay the family $80 a month, which back then was money, and very creative use. Here in bowling, I know a lot of you use creative ways to reach out to people, and Thomas Stockton is a perfect example of that, but I'm not going to really present the award. I'm going to ask Randy to come up. Where's Randy? Randy, would you stand up?
He's standing up.
Oh, you are. He told me, tell him the little guy's going to come up and make the presentation. So Randy Schenk's going to come up here, and Randy will actually make the presentation.
Hello, everybody. If you don't know me, my name is Randy Schenk. If you forgot me, my name is Randy Schenk, and I'm currently unemployed. I'm looking for work, though, so stay tuned, okay? Tom, you're a pretty special guy. Where is he? You get two inductees here. First of all, like everybody else, congratulations to all my honorees tonight. Wow. It's just great to be around you folks. You make proprietors' jobs a lot easier and keep the sport strong. So, any military out there? Stand up. Nice to our military, past and present. That's how happy you have tonight. I was asked to induct Tom and give him the Judge Watts Award, and there couldn't be anybody more deserving than Tom. Mr. Tom Stockton carries many titles, and I know he doesn't like this, as many of us don't. Many titles, though: grandfather, uncle, father, husband, son, brother, friend. I might leave something out, Tom, you fill in. Coach. Coached Stevenson High School for 18 years, with not a kid in the program. He cut him. His son went home and said, "Mom, Dad cut me." Thanks, Doc. I always forgot about that. He's one of the pioneers of high school bowling, literally. MAC Coach of the Year, Free Press Coach of the Year, won several state titles. How many times? 4 state titles, and in 2009, won both the boys and the girls state titles the same year. Never happened before. Folks, I could go on and on. I got a list here. My wife said keep it short. I mean, there's a list of accomplishments, all amazing. This guy's dedication is amazing. I just found out the other day how you met Bob Solomon, our other partner in coaching here. Tom was coaching softball, and he got ejected from the game. I didn't know he had that kind of temper. So he looked into the crowd, he saw Bob Solomon, Utica's coach. He says, "Can you coach?" Bob says, "Yeah, get in here." And then it carried on into bowling. So they were good partners with all the MHSAA tournaments and whatnot, and he'll never forgive you for that. I've had the outstanding privilege to work side by side with Tom and his crew for many of the MHSAA tournaments, JV tournaments, you name it. I mean, this guy knows how to run a tournament. And we've also talked quite a bit after over adult beverage. You know, folks, I don't know about you guys, but I couldn't stand chemistry in high school. Did not stand it. Anybody else? I finally figured out it's not me. I had a bad teacher. Well, I found a good teacher. Tom Stockton teaches and preaches the chemistry as it relates to bowling like no other. His passion and perfection in everything he does, I'm telling you, is insurmountable. Absolutely insurmountable. John Karsbar tells a story, last year's Judge Watts Award winner, how Tom would finish on a Friday night doing a 300-person fundraiser at the Brook to raise money for his team. That's Friday night. Saturday morning, he goes out to solicit door prizes for next year's event. Who does that? Tom. You've heard this old saying, you know, don't leave a stone unturned. Tom's passion and process was don't leave any boulder unturned. And then roll that boulder over 10 times till we get it right. So, Cindy Stockton, Tom's wife, for 42 years. When I put my wife through, I think of you, and I don't feel so bad. You are superhuman. But you made a good team. And thank you for sharing such a beautiful man with Sunnybrook and myself, and all of bowling, actually. I mean, this guy's amazing. It's easy to sit up and take notice of some things, folks. What's difficult is standing up and taking action. Today we're honoring the fact that someone stood up and took action. Today we're honoring enthusiasm, commitment, and pure and simple hard work. You know, Tom, Lady Luck didn't simply smile at you and bring you up here today. Instead, purely all your hard work did it. So the Judge Watts Award for 2015 couldn't find a better person than Mr. Tom Stockton.
Okay, thank you, Randy. You said a lot of great things. I've been very blessed over the years. A lot of great people that I've been affiliated with and made my job so easy. I have a list here. I know, looking at our Hall of Fame inductees, I know at least 2 of them bowled for their high school. I know one of them I helped throughout the years, competed with and against, had the opportunity to bowl with him in some of our adult leagues. What a great group of people up here. Janice, congratulations to you, Kurt, Chris, and Rick. Just amazed. I never dreamed in my wildest dreams that I'd be receiving this award. I'm not sure that there aren't more deserving people for this award. I never got into this for an award. Someone asked me when high school bowling was starting here in Michigan, would you be interested? You're a bowler. Yeah, why not? I coach Little League, among other things. We'll give it a try. I went home and talked to my wife, and I thought, well, I don't know. And she says, her words were, and I'll use this a couple times before the night's over, what if? What if you don't do it? It'll always be in the back of your mind that you didn't do it. If you don't try it, you can always give it up if it doesn't work out for you, but what if? I've always used that, and every one of my young people who have competed for me, and other people when we were trying to get something done. What if? What if we do this? What if it'll succeed? If not, we'll make it work. And that's the outlook I always took on it. I was very fortunate in 2001. I won a ladies or girls state championship. One of the young ladies who bowled for me, an MJMA bowler, great program. Put a lot of our youth bowlers in, helped pave the way for a lot of my success. Our team's success. It was never my success, it was always the young people who bowled for me. Her name was Nicole Alio. Some of you may know her. She went to the University of Nebraska. Yep. Nicole's dad called me up, says, Tom, the University of Nebraska called, offered Nicole a scholarship. She's not gonna go. And I said, you're kidding me. This was her lifelong dream. And she said, could you talk to her? I said, sure. I'll give her a call. Talked to her, and I said, Nicole, I'm going to tell you something that almost didn't happen to me. What if I would not have coached? Would you be here today? You can always come home if it doesn't work out. She went 2 NCAA National Women's Championships later. When she won the first one, I was the first person she called. I think the call was, they were in Las Vegas. It was probably midnight that we won. Thank you. What if I hadn't gone? Was exactly what she repeated. And that's where this is all came to. I'd like to thank Dave Barnhart from Turbo for your teaching program, Alita from our bowling coach, Kurt for drilling a lot of my high school kids' bowling balls. And Christian may not know this in the early days, I would go over to Turbo and see if I could scrounge up used equipment so our kids had bowling balls. Everyone around the room, Fred, boss, you did so many things for my kids, you know, to help promote our sport. Freddie's one back there. He did probably make a lot of money off of us, but you know, he figured if you got him as a customer in the family, it'd come, and he supported us. Freddie's involved with Rochester College. George, Zania, George, I know every time I walked in the door, there was, oh my gosh, I think there was a word you used. It was KMA. I think you know what that stands for. It's, well, kiss my ass, I'm not making any money off of this guy. That was George. George, thank you.
That would be him.
We lost a bowler in our area, and this has been a trying week for me. But George called me the other day, and he says there was a young man who passed away. He had a lot of good stuff. He had some brand new bowling shoes. Tom, can you use them? Can you, for your high school program? Or I said, absolutely, George. If I can't use them, one of my boys or girls can't use them, I'll pass it on. But that's just the way we've approached this. It's just been amazing. Had an opportunity a few years ago with Paul. Paul was at Super Bowl helping, I think it was a JV tournament. I met you there. Our world is so small, but yet so large. I just look around the room, and I apologize if I'm forgetting anyone. Mark Voigt, looking, I know you're here. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Greg Gumtow. If it wasn't for people like you, thank you, Randy and Cheryl. If it wasn't for people like you, I wouldn't be here today. I'm here because I was given the opportunity. The opportunity, I get to coach against Jay Lang. Tom, De La Salle called me in the early days before they started the high school program as we know it today, and we're wanting to get back involved. I know you, Kurt, you bowl for, I believe, Sterling Heights High School, correct? And Chris at De La Salle. It's just, it's gone from one thing to what it is today. Never in my wildest dreams would I ever dreamed that any of us would have had the success or the programs would have grown. I said in all those meetings in the early days of all the detractors, we're going to wreck the sport, we're going to do this, why can't our kids do that? I think we proved that high school bowling has a place in our community and in our centers. All you proprietors out there that have given your hard-earned money, your time, your efforts, some of you coach your high school teams, thank you. This is what this is about. It isn't about me, this award, it's about everything we've all done to come together. I am just amazed about where it's came from, and where it's gone, and where it's going. I've been involved in a lot of things, and my boys played high school sports. Really, neither one of them were bowlers. As Randy said about my boys didn't bowl, I had a little thing. After our first year at Sterling Lanes, that's where our home center was, before I moved on to Sunnybrook, which was a close fit for the school, being only less than a mile away. We were starting a JV program. I had 50 boys show up. Now, mind you, some of them were really good. My son had never bowled before, other than we tried to get him involved in a youth league because I've always been a bowler. Bowling was my way out of the house. It wasn't sitting on the cold bench in a track meet or choking because of chlorine because my oldest son swam or played golf or baseball. It's just, it was my way out of getting a night out, getting away. I enjoyed the camaraderie with, you know, you're gonna get to bowl with Jay in a league. I'm bowling with Rick in a league. Amazing men, amazing people who were I coach against and had that opportunity. Tom, I got to coach against you. It's just, I think we all look at it the same way. We love what we do. It's not for what we do or the rewards we get, but what the kids get. And that's what it's always been for me. I'm going to use the what if one more time. Let me look at my notes here. I'm just kind of running this off the top of my head. Harry Berkey, some of you know Harry. Harry, in the early days, did a lot of youth things here in Michigan. Harry was the first person I met when I was asked if I'd like to coach at Stevenson High School. The successes in the programs and the things we decided we want to create. Last year at our All-State Banquet, we invited all the Michigan college coaches to come to the banquet, just to set up a table and discuss and show that there's opportunities here in our fine state of Michigan. Pretty much all of them showed up. Now, maybe on a smaller level like what Dave, we may make that a 2-day event next year just before All-State Banquet and just let the coaches come and watch our young people bowl, just so that they know that they're out there. We're starting out really well with our bowling, our college bowling here in Michigan. We hope we can only carry it on. And once again, all of you have had such a big part in this. And one last what if. What if 42 years ago, I wouldn't have met my wife? And I'm very grateful because she's been behind me all these years and allowed me to do this. There's been a lot of times that we gave up a lot, she gave up a lot, so I could do what I do, and I truly appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Thank you for this award. Once again, it's not something I expected. Thank you all.
Yeah, that tournament that Tom was talking about, I spent a short time as an assistant coach, about 4 or 5 years on the North Farmington High School bowling team, and you know, I'm going to kind of take the remarks I usually make at the end of this banquet and say it now because it so perfectly echoes what Tom said, and that is we really, you know, all of us in this room, the people we're honoring, you know, this is for career accomplishments in the sport of bowling, and you know, but it starts with our kids, and I always urge proprietors, make these youth leagues for the kids so much fun. You're not going to make a ton of money on them, but what you're doing is you're developing our bowlers that are going to be the next 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds and 50-year-olds that are going to be, you know, bowling in leagues. And I think I would probably not get too much argument by saying that if a kid grows up having all sorts of fun bowling and having birthday parties at the bowling alley and things like that, and they learn how to bowl, maybe they develop some skill, they're a lot more likely to join a league at some point later on in their life. And just one perfect example is a close friend of mine in my bowling league. His son started off in the youth leagues at Country Lanes, and he's now a 9th grader. He's just joined, or he's going to try out. He's a very good bowler, so he might even make varsity as a 9th grader, but the North Farmington High School bowling team. And you know, this young man, you know, his father loves to bowl, and he's been a good friend of mine, and his son sees that, and he's had a lot of fun bowling, and now he's going to develop camaraderie with his high school teammates, and all of this stuff is what then develops our future league bowlers. And so thank you for what you've done, but thank you all, especially proprietors that put so much energy into those youth programs, because again, those kids are our future. You can look at it both as from an emotional standpoint, just as bowlers, and you can look at it from a business standpoint as well. So let's put all that energy that we can into those youth programs. There's a fruit fly up here that is just driving me crazy. He's been here for like the last 2 speakers. All right, our final honoree tonight is the George Pribola Industry Award, and it's going to be awarded to John Brown for making outstanding contributions to the sport of bowling as a center owner. And John's presenter is going to be Tom Winkle. So we invite Tom up.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tom Winkle. I'm president of the Southeast Michigan Bowling Centers Association, and I'm also the last presenter for the evening. Hell yeah. Always nice to be last, I think. I'm here to present the George Pribola Award posthumously to John L. Brown, long overdue acknowledgement of his significant contributions to the bowling community. John was born in 1900, and he had 3 daughters, and this is Barbara. She'll be accepting the award on behalf of her father. By the time John was 30 years old, he'd already made $1 million. Then he lost it all when the banks collapsed in the 1930s. It was the start of the Great Depression. He shrugged it off and started working on his second million during the Great Depression. And I just wonder what $1 million in the Great Depression would have been worth today. A whole lot of money. John came to Detroit from New York as a penniless teenager. His father was a construction worker, and he brought the family to the greener pastures of Detroit. He graduated from Northern High School, and he decided he wanted to become a lawyer. But more importantly, he wanted to marry one Ada Victor, a local beauty contest winner. And as he said in a 1958 Detroit News feature, quote, "Everyone thought I married her for her $250 prize money, but it wasn't so. She hung on to it." End quote. But apparently the banks weren't as tough as Ada, because he convinced the banks to lend him some money to buy the old Acme Theater at a bargain basement price, because the current owners thought that they were going to be in trouble because of a new fancy theater being built down the street. John's first screening was a Mary Carr film entitled Over the Hill to the Poorhouse, which John's friends thought was very appropriate. While still in the movie business, John took a minor job at a small brokerage house as a stock transfer clerk. The revenues from the Poorhouse screenings allowed him to invest in the brokerage firm, and there John convinced the firm's directors to install a phone line to the bank so they could keep up with the hourly fluctuations in the bond market. His idea worked. Revenues jumped from $400 a month, or from $200 a month to over $4,000 a month. As a result of this, the firm offered John's salary increase from $30 to $175 a month. John turned him down. Instead, he partnered with J.D. Curry to open his own brokerage firm with J.D.'s $10,000 investment. There he organized a number of businesses, including a cigar company, several breweries, and he took 3 outboard motor companies, combined them into one large company because he thought recreational boating might take off. He could have stopped right there. John had accumulated over $1 million. This is 1920s $1 million. Then the banks failed, the Great Depression was on, and John lost everything. All John was left with was a few unsold bonds and a crumbling, warped-laned Southwestern Recreation, whose owner was in default. Before John could collect this crumbling prize, he had mortgage problems and tax problems. He talked to the banks and to the government, and he convinced them it was in their best interest to let him work off the debt. Couldn't do that today, that's for sure. In 1935, John took over the center. He knew nothing about bowling, but he did know that Detroit was known nationally as a great sports center, and that bowling was an inexpensive activity that depression-weary Detroiters could partake in. Equipment manufacturers took a chance and outfitted the place, hoping they would get paid, and they did. He learned to bowl, he learned to organize leagues, and he offered incentives to attract new customers, and they came in droves. John was on his way to his second million. As soon as he cleared his debts, he started working on his next project. In 1946, he built the Great Lakes Bowling Center, a magnificent 40-lane, marble-floored, first of its kind, clear span bowling palace in the new center area. And that turned out to be the template for modern bowling centers of today. I just met Barbara earlier, and she wanted to make sure that I told you guys that her and her sisters grew up in that building. They played around on the floor. Dad ran the counter, didn't like bowling. Dad ran the counter, he ran the bar, ran the back end, he was all over the place, and the kids grew up there, as so many bowling proprietors' kids have. Let's see. Soon after that, he added 20 lanes, and that made him the bowling baron in Detroit. Like all centers of that area, John used pin boys instead of automatic pin spotters, and realizing the importance to his customers and his business, he put bunk beds in for them, showers, and a small cafeteria behind the lanes, so he was always assured of having reliable help. In 1959, the bowling boom was taking off. John built Bowlerama, a 40-lane center on 7 Mile near Lodger. That was the start of the Great Lakes Bowling Corporation. Over the next several years, he would build 9 more large centers. These were big houses, 40 lanes and better, 2 motels, and acquire or control 60 centers, now becoming Great Lakes Recreation Company and getting a listing on the American Stock Exchange. The list of his centers include the original Great Lakes Bowling Center, Bowlerama on the west side. You had North Lanes at 8 Mile and Greenfield, Yorba Linda, 13 in Woodward, Royal Oak, Strike and Spare, Bloomfield Hills, Maple Road, plus centers in Southgate, Trenton, Madison Heights, Ypsi, Ann Arbor, and Flint. And these are the mechanics of John's bowling career. His real contributions were in the vision and philosophy he had. By his own admission, he was of a restless mind, meaning he was always looking at how things were done and how things could be done better. The phones at the brokerage house. Why should you run down the street with bond orders when you could call them and call in your order? The technology at the time was expensive, but the pay right back was huge. Semi-housing, his pinboys. He was assured of a reliable labor source. And the architecture of his buildings was way ahead of the time. His buildings weren't just utilitarian boxes, they were functional works of art. Who can forget the scalloped roof lines above the windows at Bolorama, or the zigzag floor-to-ceiling windows at Strike and Spare, or maybe it was Bolorama, I don't remember. Bolorama. And of course, out in an empty field in Livonia, he had something that looked like it was from the Jetsons. It was Clover Lanes. It's its expansive, pillowy white roof. What kid in Livonia didn't dream of riding his bike up and down that rolling roof? But perhaps his biggest contribution was in changing the way centers were owned and operated. Until that point in time, businesses were generally single-store owner operations. In the mid-1950s, Ray Kroc was trying to expand a hamburger chain. John Brown was working on expanding a bowling chain, which I think is far more difficult. He was putting in supply chain and management systems which could be duplicated from center to center, laying the foundation for many operators that followed him today. For these reasons and many more accomplishments, the Detroit Hall of Fame is proud, Barbara, to award your father, John L. Brown, the Distinguished George Cribble Award.
Can you hear me? As a speech major, graduated in 1949, which makes me 87, I was told to try to say something funny first. And I would like to say that one day in the Penobscot building where my father's office was, a very well-clad gentleman came in with Gucci loafers and a beautifully three-piece suit. And he said, "Mr. Brown, do you remember me?" And Dad, he said, "I don't think so." He said, "Well, you know, I was a bartender, and here's the $150 I owe you that I stole from the register." And then let me see, I just remembered another few things. Oh, Strike and Spare, yes. Good. We had a restaurant called the Steak Knife, okay? And it was, I think he rented it to a Chinaman, and they said, when a Chinaman and a Jew gets together, it's going to be a real problem. They leased it for quite a while, and then finally they did leave. And as a child, the reason that my sisters and I don't like bowling, or I shouldn't say don't like it, it certainly put me through college, etc. But sitting in that center, and those pins, and the noise, and the commotion, and we had to go to school in the morning. My mother, I thought there'd be a divorce. My mother said, you may need the money, but they've got to get some sleep. So anyway, I won't burden you with all this, but I've been involved with Great Lakes for 71 years, and my father was a tough businessman, and maybe a lot of people didn't particularly like him. He was the most wonderful father, my very best friend, and I have another best friend here that I'd like to have stand up, and his name is Richard Blum. He came. He owns Mary Poe Lanes, and he worked for us diligently, and he's been my best friend, and through some very trying bowling years, he's been the rock. He's the most fair, honest, the most grateful man that I have ever known, and you better go there and bowl.
Well, it's an honor, and I have to tell a story now about working at the old Strike and Spare. As you just heard, it was attached to a Chinese restaurant. There was a door from the bar that actually went into the kitchen of the Chinese restaurant. And I did everything at the bowling. I was a mechanic some nights I was a bartender, some nights I was the night manager closing the place, so I did everything. And when I was bartending, I found it kind of interesting that waitresses from the Chinese restaurant would come into the bar, order drinks, pay us cash, and then go back in. That's kind of interesting because they don't have a liquor license. And I just said, well, how does that work? And what they told me is that they were not selling alcohol. They were just serving alcohol. And I don't know if that's legal or not. But I just remember, I'm 19 years old. And I'm thinking, how do they make this work? But I actually never had the privilege of meeting Mr. Brown. And I say Mr. Brown because that's what everybody called him. And I just remember one day, the day before, I guess he was going to come visit the bowling alley, and I just remember I had to do a lot of cleaning. I had to do a lot of cleaning that day. But yeah, it was a bowling alley attached to a Chinese restaurant, and I will echo that his bowling alleys were majestic bowling alleys, large, just welcoming bowling. We had 52 lanes at Strike and Spare, and I just had many fond memories of that place. And he ran a good company. He had good people. I knew some of the managers, some of the various centers, and he hired good people, and certainly is deserving of this award. But anyhow, that brings us to the end of our program tonight. I already gave you my closing thought because I always close with talking about the kids and all that. But there's something else I noticed tonight. I'll just say this briefly. When you came in, audience participation. When you came in tonight, you all got one of these. How many of you actually sat down and read it? Hell yeah. All right. Now, when you read it and you read the accomplishments of our inductees, you go, wow. And that maybe that's a definition of why they're being honored tonight, why they're here. But if you notice, in all of their acceptance speeches, they talked about all the names, all the people. And I tell you, more than any other sport, there is no other sport where you develop the kind of relationships that we develop in our great sport. I mean, in other sports, you're all spread out on a field, and even sometimes there's so many players on the team that you're sitting on a bench. None of you are ever sitting next to each other. You just got a small, you're sitting next to a person. There's people, 20 feet down from you. Well, here, we got 4 or 5 people. We're just sitting together around the table. And that's how you develop your relationships. And I will tell you that, and I told you earlier, I've been in the same bowling league since about 1984, I think it was. And some of the closest people in my life are people that I've met through that bowling league. And we go through everything together, and it's not just the competition. We get married, and we have kids, and we have deaths in the family, and we have kids graduate from high school and college and things. And that's what we do. We go and we compete, and believe me, I might be one of the most competitive people in this room. That doesn't mean I'm as good as you. I'm just saying I'm very competitive. But I tell you, you go out there, and it's like Rick said, you go and you have fun, and you congratulate a guy or a gal on a nice shot, and you have these great relationships with people, and those relationships last a lifetime. And every year we come to this night, and we see how those relationships have developed, and we see how very, very important they are, and how important not just to the sport, but just how important they are to our lives. So with that, we congratulate all of our inductees and all of our honorees, and we also cherish and rejoice in all of those great relationships. So thank you all for coming, and we look forward to seeing you next year.
Thank you.